I'm Shane. I'm most comfortable behind the camera, not in front of it. I met Dean Gibson as a TAFE teacher over 10 years ago when I was recording a video for his class on how to temper chocolate. We then became mates. It was at this time when Dean had taken leave to compete in the Asian Pastry Cup in Singapore, along with Adriana Zombo as the Australian competitors. I had no idea what that was, as I only thought Australia competed in international sporting competitions, as that is what we only see in our media. I was blown away when I saw photos of the chocolate showpieces. I had no idea there was such a thing, and I didn't realise the skill and commitment that was required to compete at this level. This is when I thought, I need to capture these amazing skills, because if it's not on film, it didn't happen. Little did I know where this journey would take us, and the amazing people that we'd meet along the way. It was at this point when I started to realise the opportunities there were in trades, and how important it was to have passionate industry professionals teaching, and that the real story was starting to unfold of how critical it was to pass on skills for trades.
I think it's an obligation for tradespeople to pass on skills and knowledge, but it's also part of that mindset. If you are a tradesperson and you want to be a professional, it is about continually learning and about continually testing yourself and improving. You know, for me, even the type of job that I've got as a teacher, I'm always testing myself. I'm always finding ways of doing things better. And then that's then passed on to the next generation of pastry chefs. You know, things like world skills and bake skills, and I know every industry sector probably has some competition, but I think that competition, that's where you find your leaders. You know, that's where you get to mentor and grow that very small amount of professionals that you know that you can invest in, and then that they will be leaders of industry. So with the training regime for competitions, you've got a system where you're all coming to one area to train together. That would happen 12 months before a competition. It would involve maybe one weekend per month at the start, and then you wind that up to 4 days to a week, and then when you get to the last period prior to a competition, it's full time. So you're out of work, you're on site, and you're training full time. As far as replicating what you're going to present in a competition, the magic number for me was always 13. If I could get 13 full runs, you knew you were in a chance to be in the top. I think competition, it's what I like to refer to, and it's not my quote, but it's the incubator of innovation. And I think it's the edge of what's happening next. And I think competition has such a massive role to play in technical education. And that's probably one area where there could be more investment. And really, if you look at what we did with Iron Shark, that's not much different to training and executing something for a competition. The systems that we used were exactly the same. So the systems that I learnt from Team Pastry Australia, I just implement those in our projects now. I'm Dean Gibson, pastry chef, chocolatier, and part of the Iron Shark team. I've been a pastry chef for over 40 years in this industry, the hospitality industry. As far as chocolate, probably a good 30 years that I've been trying to master this one ingredient. So it's been a very big part of my life, and I guess the chocolate part is part of my professional identity. The reason I got into this industry was because I wasn't good at school. So I left school very young, at 14, and it wasn't until I was, probably early 20s, where I worked out that I could work in a restaurant, I could work in a hotel, I could, and I didn't have to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go to work and work in that grinding industry, which is the baking industry. So that was part of the pathway, and I really started to see that I was good at it, and I was And the industry is so broad, right? It's got so many parts like ice cream, chocolate, bread, viennoiserie. You know, there was all these different discipline areas, and I really wanted to master all of those. So that was a crazy journey. I don't even believe that I've finished that journey. That's still the pathway that I'm on, is to be a master. That's a lifelong ambition and a lifelong journey to get to that point. The thing is, we don't have such a thing as a pastry chef in this country. And a lot of people would argue with me on that. Internationally, for sure, there's such a thing, but in this country, it's now a dessert chef. Like a chef is more likely to transition into that role and become a pastry chef. The skill set that I had back in that time when we had a thriving hotel industry, where we had pastry kitchens in hotels, where the pastry chef, we had a lot of imported pastry chefs and chefs. So really the workforce was, you had either most likely a German or a European head chef, definitely a Swiss general manager, and you would most likely have a French pastry chef. And then people like me were all the junior guys. We were the up and coming, watching what, you know, and learning patisserie. Because you've got to remember our historical skill set in this country, when I did my apprenticeship, is English-Scottish method. So that's, you know, cream buns, you know, that type of bakery product. So the patisserie was something new, and French patisserie was huge globally. So that's what it looked like back then. When I was a pastry chef at Rockpool, being an Australian pastry chef and having one of probably the largest pastry brigades at that time, yeah, that was pretty extraordinary, because most of those hotel or catering crews were, you know, led by Europeans.
My name's John Pryer and I'm an industrial designer. Yeah, my profession, industrial design, is a very diverse profession in terms of what we design. So I design in, you know, timber, metal, plastics, you know, wide range of plastics. And, you know, I guess if you want to be really technical about it, you know, chocolate is a plastic material. It can be reformed with heat, which is what plastic material is. So it's about, for me, it's about learning to use that material, and that's what any industrial designer does. And I've had a number of my ex-design students and other designers, engineers come through here, and they're interested in what we're doing. They can relate very much, although it's an art piece, they can very much relate to the value of what we've done. And also there's been some kids come through here and I tell them they should go away and become industrial designers later on. You know, to me, design is, you know, the root of all manufacturing. You can manufacture stuff, but unless you design it, no one's going to want to buy it. And industrial design, you know, that's really what industrial design does. It adds the value to a product that makes people want to buy it. It's not necessarily about the bits that make it work, although often it is. That may well be an engineer, but wanting to buy stuff is putting that extra layer on a product is industrial design. This is the latest highlight. I'm very proud of this thing we've achieved here. Things, you know, you might recognise that I've designed would be the police prisoner wagons that you see on the back of the crew cab four-wheel drives. I designed those a few years ago. And that was a great project, because before that, for anyone who's old enough to remember, we had cages with a tarp over. You know, a lot of people got damaged badly inside those things. You know, and that new product was designed not just for the safety of the occupants, but also for the safety of police as well. And you didn't have to stand on the back of the thing in the road to put people in or out of the vehicle. I've designed most of the garbage bins in Australia, so the garbage bin outside your house is full of rubbish. It's probably my product. So, but I've designed medical products and lots of other stuff you wouldn't realise as well. So, but that's what industrial design is. It's not necessarily about doing the high-profile architecture stuff that, you know, look at that wonderful building. It's about design the stuff that works.
John Pryer, yeah, he's an extraordinary man, for sure. And I'm still learning from him.
We are very different, but I think the thing that works there is that we just have total respect for each other's skills. You know, I guess we didn't know each other when we first met, and just, oh, this industrial designer here, this guy brings chocolates to class. But, you know, going through that first project, you know, I started to realise who Dean is in the industry. He never told me. It just kind of see how other people react to Dean when he starts telling them they're doing it the wrong way with their chocolate. And they say, yes, Dean. Yeah, I guess within the industrial design realm, I've got a bit of reputation as well. So yeah, I think that there is a total respect among each other for what we do, and we just trust each other to get on with our component. And we're not trying to do each other's job. Yeah, I think that level of trust and professionalism is the thing we do have in common.
The interesting thing about our working relationship is sometimes we change the lead. Like somebody leads, then somebody else leads. So I might be at some point just like a welder, because all I'm doing is joining chocolate. Then might move in, and that's where I'm doing some quite technical, processes with painting and molding and crafting. And then John will step back in with CNC routing. It's unique, and I have said for a long time, pastry chef working with an industrial designer, it is just a match. There's so much we can learn from each other. That collaboration, that skill set from another, it's fantastic.
For the first project we did was a giant rhinoceros, and that came out of I build automata, and Dean and I met, and he wanted to build one of these automata in chocolate, as he would, and his idea was to build a rhinoceros. And my thought on that was, we can build a rhinoceros, but it's probably going to be about this big, and that's cute. What we need to build is build the rhinoceros head about this big, and that's just menacing and more impressive. So that's the first thing we built, was a mechanical rhinoceros head called Bone Shaker.
Hi, I'm Dean Gibson. I'm here at Smooth Chocolate Festival, and we're building Bone Shaker concept. It's the world's first moving chocolate sculpture. It's very large, 150 kilos, which is a collaboration between a chocolatier and an industrial designer. This project, I've learnt a lot of new techniques using chainsaws, lathes, laser cutting, CNC routing. It took about 300 hours. It's been a big project, and because of the complexity of moving parts has been a challenge.
Brought a whole lot of innovation and new ideas that have never been used in chocolate.
I think we need to do another piece to get it right. This has been a fantastic exercise, and it's gone very well, but it's opened a door in terms of seeing how much potential there still is. It's the tip of the iceberg.
It moved.
The second one we did was the Raven's Voyage, which was a Viking ship, and that came out of Dean's Viking heritage and my East Coast English heritage, where I was invaded by his lot. So that, again, we kind of played with the scale on that one. It's more cartoony, but again, it has figures in it that help set the scale.
the concept of this didn't happen until Shane, you called me and said, hey, I'm looking at this thing, it'll make a great sculpture. Then I called John and he came over and had a look. And really within a couple of weeks, he had drawings. We started talking about movement. We spent probably the most amount of time out of the whole thing was really trying to come up with a name, which was Iron Shark. But having Jan Yao from Continental Patisserie, who I've got a long relationship with the teams, with Team Pastry Australia. In fact, if it wasn't for him, who said, I want to do another team, or I want to do something for fun, and that's how it rolled.
My name is Chen Yao from Continental Patisserie. Even when Dean initially described me what he wanted to do, I understand the sculpture, I understand some moving parts, but to the degree what actually I see, that's amazing. It's even, I see so many showpiece at the past in my career. In the last 30 years, I've been many times in the Pastry World Cup. But to see something like that, that's still another level.
The reason why we did Iron Shark was we decided to come up with a concept, something that was more artistic, and that's why we're in an art gallery.
It's a steampunk submarine in that vein of early science fiction, sitting on the slipway in the process of being built with myself, Dean and Shane filming the process. It's very much a miniature version of what we do in full size in chocolate. We felt that what we'd done in the past was world first in terms of number of moving parts. We were actually building a moving sculpture that was purely chocolate. But this time we really wanted to go out there and actually set a worthwhile record of maybe however many parts we could fit in. So to us there were certain restrictions on what we would do in terms to make it legitimate. So it had to be 100% couverture chocolate, no other materials. And for me, the mechanical movements had to be from a single input. So you turn one handle and then multiple moving parts occur, rather than having perhaps you tip a bucket of chocolate buttons out and then, oh, there's 1,000 moving parts. That's not a repeatable process. We want a repeatable process. So that's where the model came in. So I went away and explored that, and I was aiming for around 30 moving parts. And we've got 29. It's not that any didn't work, I miscounted. But I think, 29 from what was a previous record for us was 6 or 7 or maybe 8. It's really stepped the game right up, and having this purpose-built space has really enabled us to do that.
We decided instead of white walls or a kitchen backdrop that we would theme the whole project, reminiscent of the insides of a submarine. It's been designed to fit temporarily in the gallery at the Creator Incubator.
Design of the shirts.
The T-shirt, we've got the T-shirt.
The design of the chocolate bar, Vanessa's ability to, not only the design, but the capability of printing this crazy wallpaper, the branding and the printing of the boxes, all the cards, like the Iron Shark bar.
Looking at many competitions that you see around the world, I believe that's a very great achievement. I think, like you said, it's horizontal, it's moving, and I haven't seen anything like this on an international platform. So I think for Australia to be the first ones to actually achieve it, to do it, of course they've done different pieces before, but I think that's probably one of the biggest ones that I've seen.
It is an expression of art. Just because it's made out of chocolate doesn't mean that I have to be in a trade fair. I think it's time to fit into that space. And I think that the product that we're presenting is different than anything that's been done before.
And I think looking at a team here, I mean, not only from Dean, but also the whole team, spending a whole month trying to set up something like this in order to give a little bit of inspiration and sort of a wake-up call to the industry that actually inspiration, creativity, and teamwork is what really matters. I think that's a great effort.
We're about the journey. We haven't reached the limit yet of what's possible. The Iron Shark experience is something that you can't get really. It's unstructured. There is so much happening. If you think about the collaboration that's going on, I mean, that was such a great example of really the people that we brought in, my ex-students, current students, other industry, partners who came in there. There was a lot of learning to be had that you can't get anywhere else in the world, I believe.
My personal opinion is that the industry has gone through a bit of a lull, especially with COVID over the past 3 years, and it is hard to recruit new, fresh, excited people into the industry. And I feel that projects like this, along with Dean, mentoring his students and just bringing them up and saying, guys, like, this is where you can go and go further, which I think is absolutely brilliant.
I'm Joanna Gray. I am currently working at the Rickstein at Bannisters as a pastry chef. I'm one of Dean's previous students, so he trained me to be who I am now. And it's something that you can't get anywhere else, especially in this state, let alone this country. So that's why I'm here, to do everything I do. Education is pretty important. It gets you the fine detail knowledge of everything. But other than that, I find getting out and learning it, like hands-on work, is probably the best way to do it. But you still need that underlying knowledge to be able to even get started, or even just a passion to get started. So the skills that I have acquired from here have definitely, even with my job, it gives me chances to then prove what I can do and then take it and use it to other aspects and show them that there's more than just chocolates and pastry. It's art.
With Iron Shark, that's why we reached out to those nickel boys, because they are the future leaders of our industry. And I know that none of that work that we put into those boys was wasted. I mean, that had high value for those guys. They really appreciated, and they just couldn't learn enough. I'm a tradesperson, and it's an obligation to pass on skills and knowledge. So I contacted Josh to see whether he would like to be involved. And look, he jumped in with a massive amount of enthusiasm. His contribution was huge.
My name's Josh Nickel, and I'm a pastry chef from the Gumnup Patisserie in the Southern Highlands. I've been a pastry chef now for 7 years. I completed my apprenticeship at Gumnup Patisserie, which was 4 years, and then since then I've travelled overseas, being a pastry chef in London. I worked a little bit in Belgium as well, and have accompanied the Australian pastry team when they competed in Lyon. I'm working with Dean and John on the Iron Shark project. Working with these guys here is a real good opportunity for myself to upskill and do something like this, hopefully in the future on my own, or compete at that international level.
I am so impressed with this young man, his ability, his work ethic, his skill level for being such a young pastry chef. He's got a younger brother, Will, and also he's one for the future. Very gifted young man, I think 15 years old, just wanting to absorb as much as he can.
I'm William Nickel. I'm from the Gumnup Patisserie in the Southern Highlands. I'm here to work on the Iron Shark with Dean, John and my older brother Josh. The highlight so far has probably been the body armour. I was doing that with Dean today, and him just showing me all the different techniques you can do. We did the same piece 3 different ways, which shows you the different styles you can use when creating a masterpiece like this.
It's a very rewarding job. Sometimes it's hard-working, long hours, and some days can be difficult. But there's way more enjoyable days and rewarding times in this industry. Young aspiring pastry chefs coming from rural areas, I think putting yourself out there is key to develop yourself. Not always opportunities will come to you, especially starting out young in the trade and going throughout your apprenticeship, you have to put yourself out there. Sometimes that involves travel, long days, or big commitments. Sometimes it's not the nicest on your social life either. But if you're committed and driven and passionate about being a pastry chef, you'll go far.
I met Jan at Continental Patisserie, and we formed a relationship. But when I had met him at the Coupe du Monde in 1999, and we started to form this idea about forming a team together, an Australian team that would compete globally, he was instrumental in mentoring me and also motivating me to go and grab that. Like, he was the key part for me. He had the management experience. He had the contacts globally. And Jan had the reputation. So really, Jan really allowed me to grow and ride on his coattails, and we worked very well as a team. So, as Jan was management and also, his command on patisserie, you know, and just his global knowledge of patisserie, was key to what we were doing.
A craftsman, those skill, it's even we can go to next generation with digital, with everything. This is not something you can replace. And sometimes people say, oh, future 10 years time, all the kitchen will full of robot. And but they cannot do like that skill set. I don't believe, at least I cannot really see, because that skill set, it's a human sensor. It's not a machine sensor. It's a human's skill with your hand. You know, that's not something easily replaced. So, but to keep it is so important, I think, in my view. If we lost that, then we're lost forever, those skills. Yeah. Oh, it's a big worry. It's a big worry, especially after COVID. See how many people left. Okay, initially started because the hotel shut down, the industry shut down, so a lot of people have to find something for living. But then turned up, and then, oh, I found a job. I become a salesman. I'm working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. You know, why should I work in the kitchen? So that happened to a lot of young generation in their mind. So I think that's already a start warning. Like to our industry, it's a big worry. Then also another thing is our education system is not pumping people into the industry. In fact, we're getting less and less. One of the things they probably think this type of work it's boring. There's nothing really looking for, you know. But what we want to prove, actually, yeah, there's something can be outstanding. You know, it's not like your daily things what we can come up. I think in some way for craftsmanship, we just don't have enough reward in this country, and not like Europe. If Dean would have been France, he would award MOF like the most outstanding craftsman. That's in the history of 100-something years in France, it's only 100-something people got that award. You know, Dean deserve. In our generation, he's one of the outstanding. But what we have, nothing, zero. When we organized the pastry team, we initially did try to see if we get any funding from government. Nothing. There's no support whatsoever, you know. So that's the sad part. Yeah. So we sort of a group, passion, crazy people to keep this going. Yeah.
We've always seen hospitality and trades as the job you get when you can't go to uni. I'm just gobsmacked about how many opportunities I've seen when we went to France, when we went to Jakarta and Singapore with the Australian pastry team and the baking team and all these guys, and seeing how well respected these people are. We don't have that here.
I was one of the judges in the Pastry World Cup many times. Everybody look at Australia, it's like you're 100 years behind. No, I said no, we have enough talent. But we do need to have that connection with the world to make that talent become just a reality of we are no different to a country in Europe, you know? So that, I think it's important. The biggest parts on those competition things, actually it's not the competition result. Actually, it's the process. Every step you walk out, actually it opens all of us eye. So for the new generation, if you only stuck in all I know is Sydney, who is the best pastry chef or the skill set, then when you go to Singapore, that's another eye open. When you go to France, that's another eye open. So I really hope we still continue to have people interested in that kind of things. Then those people can go overseas. Then they bring the new set of skills back to the country, then keep our industry in the same level as the rest of the world. One of the things in my mind is, you know, it's an inspired young generation and attract the public. There's people can think, oh, John, industry designer, can do things like that. I'm an architect, why I can't? I think the main things, Dean and I, we talked a lot for future generation, right? I think if we don't do that, there's nothing to attract the young tradespeople in their field. They become on the daily basis, oh, I'm just making some baguettes, bread, or some tarts, some pastries. It's a part of my routine job. That, but we want to have that kind of activity inspire some very intelligent people join the industry. The people who have really a good artistic knowledge.
Tradespeople are the backbone of everything that we do. I mean, I talk to a lot of small business where they can't grow anymore because they can't find staff. They can't find skilled staff. In fact, I think that they can't even find staff to train. There's a void. It's a big problem. There is just some work to be done to make trades more attractive. We need to put more apprentices on. We have to find a way to bring in more people. And of course, we can bring in, workers from other countries. We would definitely benefit from having those guys here. But I think that, we really need to grow and we need to revisit training, workplace training, making an apprenticeship a viable option financially. The environment for young people in the workplace means that we need to showcase skills and knowledge. We have to give a reason for people to look at, wow, I want to do that. I could see myself doing that as a career. And I think that what is the risk? I think what we're seeing, what the outcome is for not taking action. All that sort of stuff needs to be, looked at. It's a big job. So I think all tradespeople should be recognised for high qualification, trade excellence and transfer of skills and knowledge to others. The pastry chefs in this country, we always look at the French for the system that they brought in place, which is an MOF. And this is the Medal of France. So it's a concept where the government recognise top tradespeople. It's a competition and it's no easy feat to be an MOF. In fact, it's interesting that we're talking about this now because it's not rocket science, but this was in the 1920s that they brought this process out. And it was to reinvigorate and address dwindling numbers of craftspeople. So I think that it's nothing new. It's pretty, I think, achievable to do that. So I think that is a very good example that we can use to address some of these issues that we have. I don't know what the answer is. I just know that I'm trying to do my part. I'm passionate and I do feel that I have a responsibility because I'm in education, that I need to keep on pushing on with this concept of skills for trades and trades for skills.
As content creators, Vanessa and I get to work with people in various industries, including industrial design, manufacturing, electronics, entertainment, hospitality and education, just to name a few. They are all struggling to find skilled workers. It's important that we show people there are opportunities like this in all trades. It is only your commitment and passion that will determine what's possible for your future.
I've been working in the family business since I was born. Have been more hands-on in the last 3 years and I've always wanted to do it. There's no doubt in my mind that this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, and I'm eager to get into the workplace, happy to work every day if that's what I need to do to get there.